Hi, and welcome back to series 4 of Life Sci AI, the podcast series. And as you know, this series, we are primarily focusing on highlighting new and innovative ways in which AI is being used specifically within drug discovery across Europe. And so following the really interesting episode last month with Quano and David Wright, we are very honored to be joined by the CSO and co-founder of Iktos. Iktos are a French startup based in Paris, and they develop truly innovative and disruptive AI technology for ligand and structured base de novo drug design. And we're with the CSO and co-founder, Quentin Perron. Welcome very much to the podcast. How are you?
Hi, Nick. Thank you very much for the invitation. Very happy to be here. I'm good. Thank you.
You're good. We were just chatting before, because it's recorded in January, about the state of the UK versus France. So we've had to have this just pushed back slightly because of all the strikes. But that aside, I guess it'd be good for people who don't know Iktos and don't know yourself to have a slight introduction into you and the business in a bit more detail first off.
Sure. So my name is Quentin Perron, as you mentioned, and I'm a chemist by training. So I did my PhD in Switzerland, moved to UCLA for doing total synthesis. So I'm a truly organic chemist. So basically, we manipulate molecules to design drugs. I worked in the lab, and now I work in silico, I would say, at Iktos, trying to design softwares and technology to help organic chemists, medicinal chemists to design new drugs better, faster, cheaper, I would say. Mm-hmm. And so at Iktos, basically, we are a team of 50 people dedicated to apply and use AI to that purpose. So designing molecules, but also to score those molecules in silico to be able to know if the design molecules by the AI will be soluble, active, stable, etc. So which fits the requirement to become a drug on the markets. Mm-hmm. And also we design AI to find the recipe to make that molecules. So it's an end-to-end technology from the ideas to the recipe, in order to accelerate this process of discovery of new drugs.
I see. Okay. And so when you, I guess, going from research into a startup company, what was the reason, or was there a seminal moment where you thought, I'm going to be a co-founder, or was it an accidental co-founder, as some people tend to be when they are in your position?
So maybe in the middle, I would say, because I was a chemist working in a French company doing medicinal chemistry, and I was really and I loved my job. But in 2012 or something, it was difficult to find a job in that position. So I moved basically to another company in Paris doing data science and machine learning, which was like this buzzword in the 2014, data science, machine learning. And I decided to call the co-founder of that company and say, okay, you're trying to develop machine learning and data science on chemistry, and it seems that it's not really working very well, because they were involved on one of the project I was leading in that company in chemistry. And say I proposed them to modify a bit their technology to make it work for chemistry, and actually it worked. And then I meet the two other co-founders, Yann, Gaston-Mathé, and Nicolas. And during my coffee break with Nicolas, we had these ideas to use what we call NLP, natural language processing technologies, which are used by Google, by Siri, by all AI we can use on a daily basis. And we had this idea to use it not to speak French or English, but to speak molecules. So based on these ideas, we decided to start our own company. So we bought some GPUs, and in our garage, I would say, we start developing algorithm which takes as inputs molecules, and those molecules can be transformed as a string. So you can train a neural network to speak molecules. And then you ask this neural network, okay, can you generate a speech, so molecules basically, which is active, soluble, stable, etc. And naturally, this generative AI is capable of designing new molecules as it would be capable of designing new piece of speech.
Wow. Okay. So was it an extension of the work you were doing previously, or did you see it as an opportunity when you're in that other business? There was some issues with the processes.
Yeah, exactly. It was an opportunity because I was more designing approach for the chemist to understand why a molecule is good, why a molecule is bad, and then based on this understanding and underlying mechanism to design a better drug. And then based on this work, by having discussion with Nicolas, we had this idea, and we believe that there was an opportunity here because actually all medicinal chemists, all chemists design molecule every day. And maybe it's important to understand a bit the process. So you start designing molecules. So you really draw on papers molecules with atom, position, oxygen, carbon, etc. And then once you have designed these molecules, you need to make it. So you go to the lab, you mix some preparation, you isolate the powder, and then you test this powder to external tests. And then you have the feedback. These molecules can be good, stable, soluble, active, not active, etc. And based on this information, you say, okay, I added an oxygen here, I am not good, so I will not do that anymore. I have added a nitrogen here, and now I am soluble, so maybe I should do that. And then you try to combine those feedback to design a new drug the day after. And little by little, the idea is to converge toward a molecules which has been designed by the chemist, which is at the same time stable, active, soluble, non-toxic, etc. So you have something like 15 parameters to fix. It's like a big Rubik's Cube, but each move, it's a molecules. And it costs thousands of euros. So to gather this information and to progress your projects, it takes millions of euros and several months and years, depending on the number of chemists you are in the team. So it's quite a long and iterative process. And the idea, and at that time, I was trying to help the chemists to understand what is good, what is bad, to help them to design better drugs. And since with Nicolas, we had these ideas, now the idea is to say, okay, give us your past experiments, and then we will ask the AI, what is a good idea? And then we make proposition, we display molecules to the chemists, which are predicted to be active, soluble, etc. And then we give also on top of that the recipe so that the chemist can make its selection and go to the lab and make the molecules, make the AI proposed molecule.
I see. Okay. And there's some areas around the AI and sort of the engineering that we're going to go into later on in the podcast. But for me, what have you found, well, what did you find challenging going from a chemist background in utilizing NLP and AI? Was it a smooth transition for you? Was there some areas sometimes when you thought, oh, this is too much of a gap? Or if there's someone out there who's thinking of doing a transition that you've made, I guess, what advice would you give them?
Yeah, so it was not obvious because, I was really passionate about labs and making molecules, etc. But at some point when you believe that the idea you have and of course with the other co-founders and you believe that you can make this happen, you have a strength, I would say, which come into you and you don't see the difficulties. You say, okay, it's gonna work. So you have a lot of energy at that moment. And I think it really, worth to engage yourself in such a adventure, because it is actually quite an adventure. You believe that it will be a straight line, but actually it's a bit more complex than that. So yeah, but as long as you believe in your ideas, you believe that there is a market, and you believe that you have good people around you to make it happen, there is no reasons not to jump in such an adventure.
And what would you say your purpose for doing what you do is?
So yeah, so the goal of our technology is to accelerate drastically the discovery of new molecules, and it's of course for the benefit of people, of sick people, I would say, and because today it takes too much time to find drugs, usually something like 15 to 20 years from the beginning to the end. It costs something like $1 to $2 billion per drugs. So it's something very expensive. And the idea is really to shrink this process by making sure that when we design the molecules, thanks to the AI, we can avoid complex downstreams issues like toxicity or solubility or problem of permeability, so that you avoid pushing some molecules on preclinical trials which are going to fail. Because today the problem is that a lot of molecules can fail at a lot of stage, from R&D to preclinical trial, but when it fails to preclinical trial, it's a lot of money which has been lost, and also opportunities for the people, so the idea is really to take all those aspects from the beginning, and also to, thanks to our AI, which controls synthetic feasibility, to make sure that we can design molecules which are easy to make at low costs with a very efficient manner. Because what we observe also is that molecules which are recent molecules are very complex molecules. So of course, sometimes it's mandatory, because complex molecules very often is safer, more selective, and it's good. But also we believe that if we can make things a bit simpler, it can really accelerate the process.
So the actual USP and what makes you different from other companies, because there are a couple of startups around Europe, right, that are either looking at creating an end-to-end AI platform for identification of molecules. Some of that are going all the way through to actually creating the drug as well, around some one clinical area. But my brain goes to Helix, who have been on previously the podcast series in the last series. So what would make Iktos slightly different from those other companies in this space?
Yeah, good question. I think it's really important, and we see AI every day in the newspapers, in the media. Usually people tend to mix and believe that everybody are doing the same AI. But actually AI, it's a technology, it's neural network, and it can be used at different phase of those process. So when you want to discover new drugs, you start from a target, and a target it's like a lock, and a drug is a key. So first you discover a lock, and then you try to design a key in order to enter into that lock, in order to stop or accelerate some biological process to cure a given disease. So there are a lot of companies who are using AI to find those lock. So they are using a lot of technology. You have also a lot of companies who are using AI to work on the patients and the clinical trials. There are other companies who works on other aspects of biology using AI. At Iktos, we are working on the design of the key. So it's pure organic chemistry. We are manipulating virtual molecules, And all our AI is to design those molecules. So it's pure organic chemistry on the design and on the retrosynthesis. And then once we generate a new molecules, we need to score these molecules. So we perform machine learning to predict its solubility, stability, but also its interaction inside the lock in 3D. We simulate the interaction of the generated compounds inside this lock. But it's really focused on drug design, medicinal chemistry, organic chemistry, which is not the case of the other company. We are very few in the world to do that.
Yeah. No, and I'm really interested because you mentioned a bit about the AI process that you'd be going on. And before we just tap onto that, I just wanted to clear up, are you going to be quite agnostic around the molecules in which you will be working on, or are you going to be focusing on certain areas?
Yeah, we can be quite agnostic because we are also working with crop science companies who are designing pesticides, fungicides, because it's exactly the same concepts, except that it's not human, but it's plants and insects and things like that. But it's the same ideas, designing organic molecules to inhibit or kill or some biological cells and mechanism. So we can be quite agnostic, but also when we know on which target we work, and if this target is available in 3D through X-ray or cryo-EM technology, we can use this information to directly design this key inside the lock. So we earn some times, and we are able to converge faster to a drug in that case with those type of technologies.
Oh, I see. Okay. I mean, like that's for me is the really fascinating area, and is always like the massive potential and scalability of a product like yourselves, and a way in which you can unlock a lot more potential than one really, experienced chemist, versus a platform that's agnostic around drug design and molecule design, which is going to be so fascinating to see. And the fact that you mentioned crop technology as well, we're seeing a lot of big rise in crossover from our clients on that, from the people we recruit for as a business. So it'd be great to see where that goes as well. But to dive into the AI in which you I guess is the backbone of your company, right? So generative AI first. Let's tackle that. Or do you want to talk about the three areas in detail, or maybe the two generative AIs first?
Yeah, so generative AI, as I explained, you have some, when we had these ideas, it was in 2015. So 1 year before the first paper who arose in the literatures published by Harvard. So we had something like 1 year in advance, I would say. And the approach is what the one I just explained before. It's based on speech and NLP technologies. So we use string representation of the molecules, and we train a model to reproduce that. It's called LSTM, long short-term memory. It's a recurrent neural network, which are used to perform such tasks. And when we start with that, and now you have a lot of paper in the literatures. You can even download some piece of code, and you can run that on your laptop and generate new molecules. But if you use that and you use those open source package and start generating molecules, you will start generating molecules which are maybe predicted to be soluble, stable, etc. if you succeed in setting this. But at the end, those molecules will be very complex to make. Because you do not control the synthetic feasibility. So the algorithm is just following a reward. And if to have a good reward from the models, to have a good activity, you need very, very complex molecules, the AI will generate these very, very complex molecules, but then you show it to the chemist and it just laughs at you because they say, okay, there is no way to make that compound. And even if virtually it looks active, you cannot make it. And this is a difficulty of generative AI, because you force a system to go into a direction, and the generative AI is quite greedy and trying to force the weight of these models to fit a given expected reward function. So we work hard to work on synthetic feasibility, and we have developed algorithm which was quite similar. And I don't know, maybe you heard about the Go game, where AI has been able to beat the best champion in that field, Lee Sedol. And we use exactly the same approach, because retrosynthesis, it's like a tree of search, which is huge, even bigger than the game of Go, because for a given molecules, you have plenty of ways to make it. And you need to find the one which makes sense and which starts with commercially available starting material, and each reaction steps need to work properly given the context. So it's a very difficult exercise, because contrary to Go game, the rule are not fixed. You know, it's empiric. So it took us, you know, something like 2 to 3 years to develop this technology. And now the retrosynthesis technology and the generative AI are intrinsically linked together. They communicate together. So now, in a few clicks, you can generate molecules which maximize a given fitness function. So you generate those ideal in silico compound, but on top of that, you are almost guaranteed, because you know it's always a prediction, but almost guaranteed that this molecule is feasible, and we provide you the recipe and the number of steps. And which makes our company unique in the world, because we are the only company which master at the same time the generation parts, but also the synthetic feasibility.
Yeah.
And which makes this technology quite powerful, because if tomorrow you want to make those molecules into a robot, you can guarantee that the molecules are feasible by your synthesizer, because your synthesizer, for instance, masters some chemistry, but not or you know, some precise chemistry. We know that all reaction cannot be done in synthesizers, because you have some setup which are quite complex, very low temperature, or very, you know, special condition. So here you can force your generative AI to design those molecules which are doable by your chemist or your robots, and which makes you know a very unique platform.
So without giving your secrets away, I guess, is it in the power of the AI? Is it in, because you have been working on this, you know, for best part of 8 years almost now? Is that why you're able to match the design and the, you know, synthetic feasibility so well? Do you believe?
Because I think one of our strengths at Iktos is that we are not only data science and machine learner, but we have also chemists. And very early in our history, I would say, at Iktos, we confront our technology to real use cases.
Right.
So very from the beginning, we have adapt the technology to make it work and to fulfill chemist expectation, chemists on the field. So it's not like, hey guys, we are developing crazy AI, trust us. No, we have worked on more than 50 different projects at different stages with maybe 30 different companies, from small companies to big pharma, even very big one. And we have used this technology on real use cases, and I think which make us also very confident in our technology, is because we use it every day and our clients use it every day for real projects. I think it's very important to mention that.
That's so fascinating. And do you know a company called Glima in Paris? The Glima, the medical imaging company. They were on the podcast in like series 2 or 3. and they've done fantastically well with their AI product for identifying fractures called BoneView. And I asked them the same question: how have you become so successful in a quite a busy AI market, but what sets you apart? And they said, we have had so early in our processes, we've engaged clinical validation and clinical experts and radiologists all the way from the very start of creating our AI product to make sure that they are, one, engaged, but two, it works in the real world. So it's fascinating that yourselves and Glima kind of have a similar way of working in terms of who you're engaged with early on. And I'm not surprised you've got the similar levels of success in the last 4 or 5 years. So on a wider scale, it's probably more philosophical in its sense. Do you think that for AI to be successful and continue to being successful in life sciences, people need to follow your lead and engage more with clinicians or with chemists or biologists? Or do you think we're doing enough?
So I think AI is not magic. I think it's important to mention that, and it's a new tool which allow you to drastically accelerate some process which used to be cumbersome and difficult. Right now in our Machia software, in 3 or 4 clicks, I can generate a listing of molecules predicted to be good on all your objectives in a couple of hours, and which was unenvisageable, I would say, a few years ago. If you wanted to do the same thing, you need to go to see your computational chemist in your companies, organize meetings, set up things, and then spend weeks for him to set up this process, to show you the results, etc., etc. So, yeah, we very often have this discussion with chemists who say, okay, so your AI will take our job, and maybe I don't need your technology because this is my expertise, and AI will never be able to do what I'm doing, but still at the same time I'm afraid, etc. But actually they should not be afraid. It's a new tool. It allows you to focus on exercise where you were losing time and spending a lot of time, and now you can allocate this free time, I would say, to do something maybe more for human, which is discovering new things, read papers, literatures, summarize things, and generate new ideas. And this is, I think, where AI and human can benefit by using AI as a tool to release some workload, I would say.
I see. It's like always being that assistive technology rather than that automated technology.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like a colleagues, and you ask him something and it answer you, and then you take whatever you want. If you don't believe it, you are not using it. If you believe it's good, and then you take the output and to move forward.
So we're not going to be in a world where ChatGPT it's designing the molecules.
But basically we are doing these type of things because when you go to Machia, you put the data of your project and we generate molecules. It's like ChatGPT, but at the end, it's not the end of the story. You need to make that compound, and it's like ChatGPT will maybe propose something, but it's not. It will be not. A novel will gonna bring you millions of euros of revenue. So it will be the beginning of a text of something, but then you need to iterate and work with it. So it's a tool which can help, and you can use ChatGPT on your daily on your daily life, but you use it at some point to accelerate some process, but then you still need your brain and your business and your work and to make things good. So.
On the synthetic feasibility piece, how attached is that to the expertise of the chemist and yourselves?
So chemists are very good at, proposing routes for given molecules. It's really the heart of their work.
Yeah.
You show a molecules, it tells you, okay, I will cut here, it will give me A and B. A, I will cut here, it will give me C and D, and B, I will cut here, it will give me E and G, and then I will buy C, D, E, and G, and then I will go to the lab and I will go forward. So we call that retrosynthesis because you think in reverse until you end up to small bricks, which are commercially available, and then you go in the forward direction. So usually chemists, it's really their work, their expertise. So here we have been able to give to Spire, which is our retrosynthesis technology, millions of reactions, millions of A plus B gives C. And thanks to that knowledge of chemistry, now Spire is able to mimic exactly the same process, which is done by a human. So it's, I would say, as good as a human, depending on the scope. For very, very complex molecules close to natural compounds, the human is still better. But for most of the chemistry you can encounter in the drug-like world, I would say, Spire is really good. And but Spire answer to a question, to that question of synthetic feasibility in seconds to minutes, and which is very, very powerful, is that you can say, okay, propose me a way to make that molecules with this and this provider, but not this one because it's not available in my country. Also, on top of that, I don't want to do more than 5 steps of chemistry. On top of that, I want you to not spend more than $100 a gram per starting material. On top of that, I want to pass by this chemistry, avoid this chemistry. And then with all that constraints, Spire find and explore the billions of possible routes to end up to the one which fits your expectation. And this is an exercise which is very, very complex for human because you don't have in your brain all the price of the providers. And so it's really helpful for a chemist to answer to those precise questions.
Wow, I didn't know that piece would have answered all of the inputs against it for that person's situation as well. Oh, that's awesome. So the final thing I kind of want to understand then is what next for yourselves and the technology really. Where else can this go? You've been thoroughly successful so far. So
right now our business model is really a fee for service where the clients propose, give us the molecules they have done, the tests they have performed, and ask us in a service mode, can you help us on that project to make it, to accelerate it? Because we are struggling to find optimal molecules, maximizing all our criteria. We do that in fee for service. Our main business model is also softwares. So we propose them to run on their own inside Machia for de novo design and Spire for retrosynthesis. This is where we are right now. Now, with all the success we have across our project, we are able to prove that such technology accelerate drug discovery project. So we're going to propose integrated drug discovery services where the clients come and say, here you are the targets, and then you take care of everything, the design, the retrosynthesis, and the make. So you partner. We will partner with CROs, which are going to do the chemistry and the biology as well, and we take care of everything. This is the next level for us to enter into this integrated drug discovery services. And also we are setting up a lab in the south of Paris where we have 2 chemists, and we will receive next week or the week after our first robots, first synthesizer in order to discover and to automatize the discovery of new molecules in a 24/7 lab, I would say, where robots will take the ideas from Machia, the recipe from Spire, and then we'll mix and do the chemistry automatically.
Oh, fantastic.
It's the next big move for us. We are only at the beginning, but I think it's an awesome project and a challenging one as well, but I think it's a future.
Oh, no, that's awesome. I will keep an eye out for the robots for you. Sounds like an exciting time, and it sounds like the foundation of success and what you've underpinned around the AI and the scientific expertise is fascinating. And the integrated model and the 24/7 robots making these molecules now is going to be exciting. Yeah, thank you very, very much. I've loved learning more about why you've been successful. I've loved learning more about your purpose and your transition into AI, because I'm pretty sure there's lots of people thinking about it and have been thinking about it. And it's great to see a success story like yourself. So thank you very much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you, Nick.
No worries. Bye-bye now.
Thank you. Bye-bye.